In life, one of the most profound lessons we must learn is this: your emotions are your own. Yet too often we hand over the steering wheel of our inner world to other people, sometimes unknowingly. A careless word, a gesture, or an opinion can send us into anger, sadness, or frustration. But the truth is, when we allow others to control our emotions, we give away our freedom. The Shaolin path teaches us that the greatest mastery is self-mastery. The mind, when trained, is like still water, calm and unmoved by the storms around it. When untrained, it reacts to every disturbance, every ripple caused by others. If you want peace, you must reclaim ownership of your emotional state. Understand this: nobody can make you feel angry. Nobody can make you feel small. These are choices, even if unconscious. The key is awareness. Once you see that your reactions belong to you, you are no longer a prisoner of other people's actions. You become free. So practice stillness. Practice observing without reacting. When words come your way, pause before you respond. When someone tries to provoke you, remember their energy does not have to enter your inner temple. Protect it. Guard it. This is how you never let anyone control your emotions again. When we hear someone say, "You made me angry," or "She hurt my feelings," it seems natural, almost obvious, to agree. We grow up believing that our emotional states are dictated by the people and circumstances around us. Yet this is a misunderstanding, a veil that covers the true nature of the mind. Nobody has the power to make you feel anything unless you hand that power over. Emotions are not automatic commands issued by the world. They are inner responses, chosen either consciously or unconsciously. The Shaolin way of understanding teaches us that while sensations and triggers arise naturally, the interpretation and the meaning we attach to them is our responsibility. To see this clearly is to recognize that emotional freedom is possible. The moment you accept that your inner state is a result of your own choices, the chains fall away and you begin to walk the path of mastery. Imagine a storm outside your window. The wind howls, rain lashes, thunder roars. You cannot control the storm, but you can close the window. You can sit inside, sheltered, dry and calm. The storm exists, but it does not control you. Emotions are much like this. Life will bring storms, people will criticize, disappoint, or misunderstand you. If you leave your inner windows wide open, every gust of negativity rushes in and shakes you. But if you learn to close the window, you realize something profound. The storm outside cannot decide your inner weather. That decision belongs to you. To say that someone else made you feel anger is to say that you have no window, no door, no shelter inside. But this is not true. The truth is that you have always had the ability to choose, only habit and lack of awareness made you forget. Consider also how two people may face the same situation yet feel completely different emotions. One person insulted on the street may laugh and walk away, another may burn with rage for days. The words were the same, the situation was the same. What differed was the choice of interpretation. And so it becomes clear, the power lies not in the external event, but in the internal meaning you assign to it. This is where mastery begins. When you stop asking, "Why did they say that to me?" and begin asking, "Why did I choose to react this way?" the question shifts the power from the external world back into your hands. The more you practice this perspective, the less vulnerable you become to manipulation, provocation, or even well-meaning opinions. You begin to live from the inside out, instead of from the outside in. Of course, this practice requires patience. It requires awareness. For emotions often surge quickly, like fire catching dry grass. In that moment, it feels as if the emotion is commanding you, as if anger or sadness is inevitable. But inevitability is an illusion. Between the spark and the flame, there is always a breath of space. In that space lies your power of choice. The more you train the mind, the more you learn to expand that space. Instead of reacting instantly, you pause, you observe, you remember this emotion is not a command, it is only an invitation. Do I accept it or do I let it pass? This inner discipline is what separates one who is enslaved by moods from one who walks freely in their own presence. The goal is not to suppress emotions, nor to deny them, but to reclaim the authority to decide whether they rule you or whether you rule them. The untrained mind is like a leaf drifting on a river, pulled wherever the current decides. One moment carried by joy, the next dragged into anger, then tossed into sadness, then lifted again by pleasure. In this constant turbulence, the individual forgets that they have the ability to stand on the river bank and watch the water flow instead of being swept away. This is where awareness becomes essential. Awareness is the shield that allows you to see the movement of emotions before they take hold of you. Without awareness, you are vulnerable to every passing influence, a careless remark, a judgmental glance, or a memory that resurfaces unexpectedly. With awareness, you can witness these influences as they arise, and in that witnessing you are no longer their prisoner. The simple act of noticing a thought or emotion dissolves much of its power. What was once a chain becomes only a passing cloud. Awareness does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. It means standing in the center of your being, like a watchful guardian, observing the tides of thought and feeling as they rise and fall. When someone speaks harshly to you, awareness notices the spark of irritation before it becomes fire. When life presents disappointment, awareness sees the shadow of sadness before it becomes despair. This pause, this recognition is your shield. It creates distance between you and the emotion. Instead of becoming the anger, you simply notice, here is anger. Instead of drowning in fear, you recognize, fear is arising. By naming and noticing, you separate yourself from identification. You are no longer anger itself, but the observer of anger. This subtle shift in perception is one of the greatest forms of freedom that the practice of awareness grants. To cultivate such awareness, discipline is required. It is not achieved through occasional effort, but through continuous practice. Meditation, breathing exercises, mindful movement, these are not empty rituals, they are training for awareness. Just as a warrior sharpens his sword daily to keep it ready, the practitioner of awareness trains every day to keep the shield polished and strong. If you only practice awareness in calm times, it will not protect you in storms. But if you practice in both stillness and turbulence, then when the world throws its arrows at you, criticism, betrayal, misunderstanding, your shield will already be in your hand. You will see the arrow before it pierces, and you will choose not to let it in. This is why the Shaolin masters emphasize not only strength of body, but clarity of mind. A strong body can resist external attacks, but only a strong awareness can resist the subtle attacks of the mind and emotions. The beauty of awareness is that it does not demand you to change others or control the outside world. It only asks you to see clearly within. When you carry awareness with you, you are not easily deceived by appearances. You notice how your breath changes when you are stressed, how your shoulders tense when you are criticized, how your thoughts begin to spiral when uncertainty appears. Each observation strengthens the shield. Each moment of noticing builds resilience. And soon what once would have provoked you into hours of anger or days of sadness becomes only a brief ripple that you observe, acknowledge, and let pass. Life continues to bring challenges, but your awareness allows you to meet them with steadiness. You no longer lose yourself in the storm, for your shield stands firm. Awareness, once cultivated, does not abandon you. It becomes a companion, guarding your inner world with silent strength. The mind, when left untrained, behaves like a lake stirred by constant winds. Every comment, every opinion, every circumstance that passes through your life creates ripples, distorting the reflection on the surface. You cannot see clearly, because the water is always in motion. In this restless state, even the smallest disturbance feels overwhelming. A single word can create waves of anger. A single disappointment can send currents of despair through your being. Yet the masters of stillness discovered that when the wind is calmed, when the mind is quieted, the water becomes clear once more. And in that clarity, the world is reflected as it truly is, not distorted, not magnified, not dramatized. This is the secret of the still mind. It cannot be disturbed because it does not react impulsively to every touch of the outside world. It remains a mirror, calm and clear, reflecting but not absorbing. The path towards such stillness is not about avoiding life. It is not about hiding from noise, from conflict, or from the imperfections of others. Rather, it is about cultivating an inner quality that remains unmoved even in the midst of chaos. Imagine a mountain standing tall while storms rage around it. The clouds may gather, the lightning may strike, but the mountain remains as it is, silent, steady, unshaken. This image captures the essence of the still mind. It is not the absence of storms, but the refusal to be swayed by them. When you begin to train your awareness and develop inner stillness, you will notice something remarkable. The same events that once shook you no longer carry the same weight. Words that once pierced deeply now pass over the surface of your mind like leaves floating on water. The external remains the same, but your inner landscape has transformed. How do we reach this state of stillness? It begins with discipline in practice. Each breath you take in awareness is a step toward calming the winds that disturb your lake. Each time you observe your thoughts without chasing them, you lessen their power to create waves. Meditation is the art of stilling the waters, not by force, not by suppressing movement, but by letting the winds die down naturally. If you sit quietly and simply observe, the mind, like water, will eventually settle. This is why the Shaolin path emphasizes patience. Stillness cannot be forced, it must be allowed. Just as muddy water clears when left undisturbed, so too does the mind regain clarity when given the space to rest. The more you practice this, the more you realize that peace is not something given by the outside world. It is something cultivated within, through consistent practice and unwavering discipline. In stillness, a new power emerges, the power of true choice. When your mind is agitated, you are controlled by impulses, reacting blindly to every external influence. But when the mind is still, you are no longer a prisoner of reactivity. You gain the ability to see situations as they are, without distortion, and from that place, you can choose your response. This is why a still mind cannot be disturbed, not because challenges disappear, but because they lose their power to dictate your state of being. Stillness grants perspective. It allows you to see the impermanence of emotions, the passing nature of thoughts, the emptiness of insults or praises alike. With this vision, you are no longer tossed by every wave of life. You become like the deep ocean, vast, quiet, unmoved by the surface storms. This is the essence of freedom, and it is born from stillness of the mind. Within each human being, there exists a sacred space, a place untouched by noise, free from judgment, and beyond the reach of external forces. It is not a physical place, but an inner sanctuary, the temple of your mind and spirit. Yet most people leave the doors of this temple wide open. They allow anyone who passes by to walk in, to leave behind their criticisms, their negativity, their doubts, and slowly, the sacredness of that space is polluted. You begin to carry emotions that are not yours, thoughts that do not belong to you, and burdens that were never meant to rest on your shoulders. Guarding your inner temple means recognizing its value and choosing carefully what you allow to enter. Just as you would not let strangers defile a holy shrine, you must not allow every careless word, every opinion, or every provocation to intrude upon your inner peace. Guarding this temple does not mean isolating yourself from the world. Life requires us to engage with others, to experience relationships, work and responsibilities. But it does mean practicing discernment. Not every voice deserves to be heard deeply within you. Not every emotion that arises in others needs to be adopted by you. Think of a temple guarded by a mindful keeper. Many approach, some with offerings, some with noise, some with destruction in their hearts. The keeper's role is not to ban all visitors, but to decide who is allowed to enter, and who must remain outside. This is the role awareness plays in your life. It acts as the guardian of your temple. When someone brings kindness, you may allow it in and let it nourish you. When someone brings anger or insult, you do not open the door. You let them stand outside with their offering of poison, and you walk away in peace. To guard your temple effectively, you must first recognize how often you give away its keys. Think of how quickly we allow others to dictate our moods. A single rude comment can ruin an entire day, not because the words had true power, but because we left the doors unguarded. A single glance of disapproval can make us doubt ourselves, not because we are unworthy, but because we permitted that glance to enter the sacred space of our mind. In reality, no one can enter your inner temple without your consent. The difficulty lies in how easily we give consent, without noticing, without resisting, without remembering the sanctity of what we are protecting. Training means learning to pause before handing over the key, asking, does this belong here? Does this serve my peace, my growth, my path? If not, then the door remains closed, and the temple remains unpolluted. The more you guard this temple, the stronger its walls become. At first it may feel like an effort, as though you are constantly fighting to protect yourself from intrusion, but over time the guarding becomes natural, effortless, like a habit of the spirit. Eventually, you realize that most of what once disturbed you no longer finds a way in at all. The opinions of strangers no longer echo in your halls. The doubts of others no longer cling to your walls. Even the storms of life may rage outside, but inside the temple, there is light, silence and clarity. This inner sanctuary is your true strength, the place from which you act with wisdom instead of reaction, with peace instead of agitation, and the more sacredly you guard it, the more it becomes a source of energy, resilience and freedom in all areas of your life. There is a profound difference between reacting and responding, though at first it may seem subtle. A reaction is immediate, impulsive, born from habit and conditioning. It is the unexamined echo of your past, triggered by the present moment. Someone criticizes you, and anger flares. Someone disappoints you and frustration rises. The reaction requires no awareness. It is automatic, like a spark igniting dry grass. A response, however, is deliberate. It is not the product of haste, but the result of presence. To respond is to pause, to create a space between stimulus and action, and within that space lies wisdom. The ability to respond instead of react is one of the highest forms of mastery, for it means you are no longer a puppet pulled by the strings of circumstance. You act, not because you are forced, but because you have chosen. The challenge is that the mind prefers speed. The body is wired for quick reactions, designed to protect us in times of danger. But in modern life, where threats are rarely physical, this instinct often betrays us. We snap at loved ones for small mistakes. We raise our voices over trivial matters. We carry resentment over words that were never meant to wound us. Reaction gives power to the outside world. It allows others to dictate how we feel and what we do. Response, on the other hand, reclaims that power. It begins with a pause, a breath, a moment of stillness. In that pause, you are no longer a victim of impulse. You step back, observe the situation, and choose an action aligned with your values rather than your emotions. That is the essence of responding. It is rooted in clarity, while reaction is rooted in chaos. Consider a tree standing in the wind. If it reacts to every gust by bending violently, it will eventually break. But if it responds with steadiness, swaying just enough to remain rooted, it endures. In the same way, when life pushes against you with challenges, you have a choice. You can react impulsively, breaking under the pressure, or you can respond with balance, adjusting without losing your ground.
The response does not mean passivity. It does not mean allowing others to walk over you or ignoring injustice. A response can be firm, clear, and powerful, but it is chosen with awareness, not driven by uncontrolled emotion. It comes from strength, not weakness. This distinction transforms not only how you interact with others, but also how you experience yourself. Every time you respond instead of react, you strengthen the roots of your inner stability. The more you practice responding, the more freedom you discover. Reaction is slavery to the moment, but response is liberation through choice. In every situation, no matter how small, you have the opportunity to train this ability. When someone cuts you off in traffic, can you pause before anger takes over? When a colleague criticizes your work, can you breathe before defensiveness rises? Each pause is training. Each choice is sharpening the skill of presence. Over time, this practice reshapes the mind. The gap between stimulus and response grows wider, and within that gap you find a new kind of strength. The strength of patience, the strength of clarity, the strength of being untouchable by petty disturbances. To respond, not react, is to live as the master of your inner world. It is to walk through life with composure, unaffected by the noise of others, and guided only by the wisdom of your own awareness. In the end, the journey is not about controlling the world, it is about mastering yourself. Life will always bring storms, people will always carry their own chaos, and challenges will continue to appear on your path. But remember this: your emotions are not commands, they are choices. Awareness is your shield, protecting you from being swept away. A still mind cannot be disturbed, for it remains calm even when the world is in motion. Guard your inner temple as something sacred, letting in only what nourishes you, and learn to respond instead of react, for in that pause lies your true power. When you live this way, you stop being a prisoner of circumstance. You are no longer at the mercy of what others say, do, or think. Instead, you become steady, unshakable, and deeply free. This is not freedom given by the outside world, it is freedom cultivated within, and once you touch it, you will never again allow anyone to control your emotions. You will walk your path with clarity, with peace, and with the quiet strength that comes only from self-mastery.